welcome back. At this point, I think it's time to give the Junior 2 its own series. We're going to separate from the JRX2 restoration project and focus on those 4 JRX2s. There are 4 now. There's the primary shelf queen, the one I'm keeping. Second shelf queen, that's for sale. JRX2 runner that I'm keeping. And then there's a parts car JRX2 that I showed in the last update. And that's going to get built and then sold off. But this is a cool project. It's going to be a combination of new and old. And I think I'm going to call it the... Seriously? You just completely moved the camera. Hi. Oh my god, I gotta check the camera now. Alright, we're good. Hi, buddy. And we're back. Alright, so Crush never misses a recording. And he heard my voice and he came running to join the video. And he came flying in here so fast, he actually smoked the tripod that the camera is on before jumping onto the desk. And now that he's here, can we proceed? Are we good? Are we good? All right. Crush approved. Okay, so as I was saying, I think I'm going to call this the Junior SE because it is a special edition Junior 2. So it's going to have the Junior 2 chassis. It's going to have Pro SE front and rear shock tower. And the gearbox is going to have, and I said this, I misspoke as I am known to do. Every video, I get something wrong. Just going too fast and say RPM when I mean Thorpe. And that's what I did this time. So this Junior 2 has a Thorpe differential and a Thorpe Delrin, I think that's how it's pronounced, idler gear. That goes on the top shaft. I think I will be getting the Thorpe Delrin outdrive gears as well, because why not? It also has the white low friction universals, but only on the gearbox side. It doesn't have them on the axle side. So if I see those sliders anywhere, I'll pick those up. Junior 2 front shocks. I'm waiting for some other shocks to arrive to put together the rear shocks. The reason for today's video is to show you the new parts that I'm adding to this car and why I'm going to refer to it as the Junior 2 SE. It's got a lot of special edition parts like the Pro SE parts. And so this package arrived today from John Broadhurst, which is JC Racing Products over in the UK. Well, first impressions. I don't know. So I opened it up at work, and this is what I got. Just a cardboard box. Now these guys aren't a major company, all right? They're not Horizon. They're not Team Associated. Putting these arms loose in a cardboard box, I'm good with it because I'd rather keep the cost of the parts low than pay for packaging. These smaller parts are in Ziploc bags. That's enough. They had to buy these Ziploc bags. I know they pass the cost along to the consumer, but the lower their overhead, the lower the cost of the product. Now, as for the parts themselves, I'm unsure how I feel about the plastic. I don't know. I don't want to say it feels cheap, but it has a very different feel than modern car parts, and these are modern car parts. So ultimately, I think my concern is that they'll be fragile. Maybe they'll be brittle. I'm not sure. Could be completely unfounded. We won't know. but it's just, they have a very hard, brittle, stiff plastic feel to them. Could be my imagination. I don't know. So I got a set of arms, front and rear. I got the axle carrier steering blocks, the caster blocks. So that's all going to be fresh. I got the axles. And they also make a reproduction of the original Team Losi ball cups. So that's pretty sweet, because that means I'm going to compare them to actual original ball cups. No, they're too short. That's too bad. Man, if they were identical, I don't know. Nah. I was going to say, well, I mean, look, if you're restoring a Shelf Queen and it's this or nothing, it's this. But these also have a hard plastic feel. I don't know what kind of plastic they're using, but I'm not sure I like it. So, anyway, I thought I'd try them. They were super cheap, so who cares? I'll have spares. If there's some, like, they might go on that JRX2 parts car, right? So, all right, let's get to work, and we'll come back when all these parts are installed on the Junior 2 SE, Junior SE, Junior 2 SE, Junior 2 SE. I've decided. Anything, Crush? Junior 2 SE? Okay. All right, stay tuned. We'll be right back when this is all together. Okay, I thought I would chime back in here and discuss the progress so far. So far, Crush has gotten in the way, every step of the way. Could you please? There you go, lay down. All right, so we're working on the Junior 2 Pro SE, or the Junior 2 SE, and we've installed the JC Racing, that's the company out of the UK, front arms, axles, steering blocks, caster blocks, and the holes for the front pins were extremely tight and needed a lot of reaming to get the parts to move freely. Not a big deal, but it did take a lot of extra time to get those parts to fit correctly. There were also binding up here on the chassis, so that took some freeing up as well with some sandpaper and an X-Acto knife to get them to stop binding. But I ran into a problem. I have everything on the front of this car. I mean, yeah, these are aftermarket parts, but they're the same dimensions as the Junior 2 JRX2 front arms. Everything lines up the exact same way to keep the geometry the same. However, I went with a Pro SE front shock tower, and there's an alignment issue. The front shocks are essentially sitting like this. Even though they're leaning back like this, they're a little angled. And I can't bring them any closer to the tower because they're already binding. The spring is, well, binding. The spring is already contacting the tower. There's a lot of friction there. There's a lot of rubbing. There's no clearance. The spring is touching the tower. The tower needs to be further away from the bulkhead. And I don't understand it because same shocks as what's on the front of a Pro SE. Same bulkhead as the front of a Pro SE. Same tower. But I have a clearance issue. I mean, I've even pulled my Pro SE down to check, and there's lots of clearance between the shock and the tower. Almost 1/4 of an inch between that spring and that tower. There's no binding, there's no rubbing whatsoever. So what's up? What's the difference? Same bulkhead, same tower, but it's touching. Although I'm confident the arms from JC are the same as far as location and geometry, I'm going to install them and see if I get the clearance. The other thing I might do is install a Junior 2 front tower and see if I get the clearance. As a matter of fact, I think that the Junior 2 front tower has a spacer molded into the plastic. And if that's the case, I'm going to have to put a spacer between the tower and the bulkhead. So we'll look into that, and we'll chime back in when it's done, or if we find anything of note. All right, we're still plugging away on the Junior 2 SE project, and I want to take a minute to shout out my buddy Michel de la Montagne, or as I like to call him, Michael the Mountain. He has 3D printed some wing buttons for the vintage Team Losi JRX series of cars, and they're phenomenal. You have really, once they're in place and on the wing, you really got to get up close to realize that they're 3D printed. So there'll be more on Michel's 3D printing work in the future, because he sent me home this weekend with a whole pile of custom made 3D printed car stands that is just made my display look that much more clean and professional. So all of my vintage cars behind me, which I will show you at the end of this video and maybe do a separate video on his work and his stands, it makes the whole thing just look that much more aesthetically pleasing. Everything matches. He's even made some that are custom to my monster trucks, so that I don't have to stack a bunch of things. They were made to my dimensions that I asked for. So, but these wing buttons, yeah, these wing buttons are awesome. So if you're putting together a shelf queen or even a runner, and you need some wing buttons so that you can use, the wing wire and the JRX 2 style wing, you should definitely hit him up on a Facebook Messenger, Michel de la Montagne, and I'll put a link to his profile in the video description below. Now, back to turning this into, well, I don't know what, but we're going to figure it out. Actually, let's take a second to revisit what we talked about last segment of this video, how the shock springs are contacting the tower. I had mentioned earlier that this front JRX Pro SE tower is the Jam & J edition, and it is quite a bit thicker. So it's possible the problem I'm getting with clearance here is simply the fact that this tower is thicker. But I'm still going to remove it, put on a Junior 2 tower, and see if I get the clearance I need, and then we'll figure out if I need to put this tower on my Pro SE runner, which has Team Associate shocks in the front, see if that helps, and then put the original Team Losi Pro SE front tower on this car, see if that helps. So we're not done figuring this problem out yet, but my theory at this point is the reason that there's contact here between the spring and the tower is that the Jam & J tower is thicker. So we'll see. We're going to keep digging into that. All right, let's get a little update on the progress here. So I have made a couple of changes along the way to the rear end. So the gearbox, as I mentioned before, has the Thorpe all aluminum differential. It has the Thorpe Delron idler gear up top. Next, when I find a set on eBay, actually I think there is a set on eBay now, but they're not cheap, the Delron outdrive gears. These outdrives, I'm not sure if those are RPM or who makes those, but they're made very different in that there's more plastic material that is incorporating the bearing dust shield, as opposed to the factory outdrive that used to have an aluminum dust shield for the bearing and then a plastic one. This is all one piece that goes flush against the bearing. So that's pretty neat. Let me just get in here with a little pointer. So this outdrive, we need to get some better light on the issue here. Not my usual setup, I apologize. There we go. So the outdrive here, the plastic is molded to go all the way to the bearing, and therefore acting like a dust shield, where the other versions of that part required an additional dust shield to go in between the outdrive and the bearing itself. This is all one piece acting as a outdrive and dust shield, so that's pretty cool. Low friction I never knew these were a thing back in the day. Low friction slider. I still have the part that hooks onto the axle, the original. If I find a set or those this part of the universal slider in the low friction white, I'll get that as well. But really, the most important thing for us to focus on right now is the fact that the arms have been switched out for the JC arms. So they're similar. Do I have a set nearby? No, I don't. They're very similar to the Jerix Pro SE H-arms. They're similar, but not identical, obviously. Wow, that looks like a whole lot of toe. And that toe is adjusted by the D block here. Anyway, so yeah, they fit right into place. These ones move completely freely, unlike the front ones that required a lot of reaming to get them to move freely. These ones were just drop in and fit perfect. So they still have the same amount of shock hole locations for the bottom of your shock. So that's pretty cool. I have lots of original arms, but I'm going to run this car, so I decided to run it with JC arms and save all those original parts. So yeah, we're coming right along. The front, again, still got to address that friction here. I brought up some Team Associated 12mm springs, and I'm going to try some of those on, see if that helps. But ultimately, I think it's that the shock tower is too wide. So before I start tearing the front apart again, I want to get the back done. So the back is done. Is there anything else left to do to the rear? No, I don't think so. Just, oh, well, I'm waiting on a Pro SE rear shock tower. So another reason why I'm referring to this as the Junior 2 SE. It has essentially Pro SE suspension for the most part, shock towers anyway, as opposed to the plastic Junior 2 ones. There's a Junior 2 body coming from Team Blue Groove with a little surprise, I might add, but we'll save that for another video. But there will be a huge shout out to Team Blue Groove. They continue to be awesome. So more on that later. For now, back to the Junior 2 SE. And next, install the shock tower when it arrives. There we go. Install the rear shock tower when it arrives, and the rear shocks. Figure out what's going on with this front. Oh, you can hear it. Gross. So yeah, next time we come back to the next clip in this video, rear shock tower and rear shocks should be installed and the front will be sorted out.